Did Sonya Deville's return just get botched? I feel like it slightly did when you consider how lackluster of a return that was. She hasn't been seen since SummerSlam after a terrific feud with Mandy Rose. Now don't get me wrong, they dropped the ball with Mandy Rose. But Sonya Deville, I feel, had a higher ceiling. And who knows, maybe I can be proven wrong here, but that doesn't feel like she's championship material just by walking through the set and all the other wrestlers going, oh my god. With that being said, I'm Josh from BWR. Let's get into the review of the New Year's episode of Smackdown. The New Year's episode of Smackdown starts with a tribute picture to Brody Lee, Luke Harper, or John Huber, however you wish to remember him. I personally want to send my condolences out to his family and friends who are hurt by the loss. He was a great wrestler, great athlete, and terrific character. He will be sadly missed after all the great memories he gave us. I wish him all the best. I wish his family all the best. I do apologise. With that being said, let's move on to the review. The show starts with a recap from Roman and Kevin from TLC and last weekend's Smackdown. It's what you expect, to be honest. Personally, with this title run of Roman's, I think Roman's doing some great work, but why is Jay getting involved so much? I get what they're trying to go for, but I feel it diminishes Roman's reign slightly because he's having to rely on his cousin more and more and more. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments about it. The show then comes about with Roman coming to the ring, and he, like I said, as much as I feel Jay's diminishing this reign a bit, Roman he is doing some great heel work, some of the best work he's ever done. Even just his aura, like he walks out to the ring slowly, like he owns the room with that smug look on his face, just like no one can touch me. He comes to the ring and he wishes everyone a happy new year the way a heel can, and talks about how he's got that golden glove on because everything he touches is greatness. He says Paul Heyman was in obscurity. He's the most honest person he's ever met, and he wanted to bring him back because there was no one better to advise the tribal chief. He then talks about Jey Uso, who he calls Main Event Uso. I have a slight critique about this line. He calls him Main Event Uso, saying he's made him have great match after match after match. He has had some good matches, I will give him that. He's on a 2-win, 6 losses streak. I wouldn't really say that's main event, would you? But he is constantly in that main event scene, I guess, so you gotta let him off with that one. And after talking all this, it eventually leads to Kevin Owens coming out, to which Kevin Owens likes to point out that, well, before he can even point anything out, I do apologise, before he gets to point anything out, Roman's constantly going, you're like a cockroach that won't go away, just be gone with you, shoo. He doesn't want anything to do with Kevin Owens. He's sick of the sight of Kevin Owens, and you gotta give him that. Roman, in this little part, he's so good on the mic. And when we consider that was his weakest point as a babyface, that he wasn't that good on the mic, he has grown leaps and bounds to be so as good as he is on the mic now. But Kevin, in retort, tells him that he actually doesn't want to talk to Roman. What he wants tonight is a match with Jey Uso. He just wants to hurt Jey Uso because Jey keeps getting involved in Kevin's business. So it looks like we're probably going to end up getting that match tonight. We all know how WWE works. Later on, we end up getting a match obviously made by Adam Pearce. Not the general manager, of course, but, you know, he's the one making the matches. And Roman doesn't seem best pleased about it, but it's happening. The match is made. There's nothing really he can do. So shortly after the opening segment, we get the recap of Biggie winning the Intercontinental Championship from Sami Zayn. And we have Biggie making his way down the entrance. I could be wrong, but he seems slightly more serious to me in this one, Biggie. Seems like he might be they might be tweaking his character a bit more now that the New Day is no longer part of him. he's coming out to have a match with Baron Corbin. Why does every new babyface or debut have to have a match with Baron Corbin? I've got nothing against Baron Corbin, but it's the Dolph Ziggler of a few years ago, where you have a new champion or a new debut, and they've got to go against them. The only saving grace for me personally from this was Sami Zayn was on commentary, and Sami Zayn, he was that one person that I never thought would be able to make the transition from face to heel, because I thought he was such a good babyface, but he seems to be an even better heel, to be honest. So the match goes on. It's a bit of a standard match, to be honest. There's nothing great going on. You have Sami on commentary calling it a conspiracy, the injustices that's everything's going on, and he makes some delusional arguments. Let's be honest, it's not valid. I was trying to validate some of them then, but he's just delusional. And the match, standard. It's nothing great. It's a Baron Corbin match. Biggie hits the big ending, and before the referee can count the three, Sami Zayn comes in to interrupt the match. You then have Sami and I'm just going to call them the Goons because I can't remember what the hell they're called. The Goons of Baron Corbin attacking Biggie, which leads to Apollo Crews coming down. I can deal with this. If we're going to get some maybe character build with Apollo Crews, I can deal with this because then it thickens out your mid-card scene, which WWE personally lately they've not got much of a mid-card. Apollo Crews comes down and saves Biggie, and they do the save thing, and we cut to break. Holla, 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 player. The match is made. It's a tag match. Who didn't see that coming? But Apollo and Biggie, they seem to have some good chemistry, to be fair, in the ring. They seem to work well, bounce off each other. It's a bit standard when you consider it. Like, you have Apollo working over for a bit. He's getting worked over, as you expect the babyface to do. I personally, when this match started, I felt like Apollo was going to be the one that got pinned. I thought he was going to be taking the fall. We were going to lead to Sami or Baron against Biggie again, and then maybe a triple threat at Royal Rumble. Instead, what we got was Apollo Crews was worked over for most of this match. They were focusing on his leg, I believe it was. And you had the Goons arguing with Sami Zayn quite a lot. This is where I got intrigued. Sami and is it Knights of the Lone Wolf, I think they're called. Sami and the Knights of the Lone Wolf were working not at all. Like, I couldn't think of a worse relationship apart from me and maybe an ex. But they were just jibing back and forth constantly. And this eventually led to the downfall of the team. After working over Apollo for so long, they then tag in Biggie. Biggie runs riot for a little bit, a few belly-to-bellies. But eventually, he does get taken down by Baron Corbin again. And Sami blind tags in. Eventually, Apollo gets tagged in again. And he runs riot a bit. And Sami throws Apollo outside to the ring and tries to get the Lone Wolves to attack him. They're having none of it. They don't listen to him, they listen to Baron Corbin. And I think that was a good little character work. But eventually, it all comes undone because Baron and Sami refuse to get along with each other. After Sami's just blind tagged in, Baron eventually just goes, right guys, we're gone. And they get up and leave. Which, to be fair, after watching the match, you kind of agree with. It's like, well, you brought it upon yourself. Eventually, this leads to Apollo Crews hitting a spin-out powerbomb for the win. I was surprised by this because, again, I thought that Apollo Crews was going to be the one that was going to take the fall. But got the win. We then later on, as they're both walking down the corridor of Apollo Crews and Biggie, get interrupted by, I'm going to say Charlie. Oh no, it was Caleb Braxton, sorry. They get interrupted by her, and Biggie says, next week on Smackdown, I'm going to be issuing an open challenge, to which Apollo Crews immediately takes claim on, says that he will be the one to challenge Biggie next week. This whole segment gave me some weird, not weird vibes, but you could tell they were building towards something because they kept back and forth with each other, little jibes. And I thought that was a good little interaction. It gave some character work, I guess. And I'm intrigued for the match because I do think Apollo, for as little his character is, he has a lot of athleticism and he can be a very good, dependable mid-carder if used correctly. Later on, we do have the Riot Squad versus what seemed to be like it was going to be the Riot Squad versus Billie Kay and Tamina. For the camera to point to the side slightly to show Natalya. All I was thinking at that point was, what the fuck's going on? Like, why? Why is Billie Kay involved in this so much? I have nothing against Billie Kay, but if you're going to treat her like a job character like this, and even Peyton Royce on Raw, why break up the Iconics? They were a good comedy act together. Like, my partner, she heard Billie Kay moaning and she was just like, why is she on the screen? Like, you're harming Billie Kay more than you're trying to bring her up. This match was nothing special. It was not great whatsoever. They might be building up the Riot Squad to try and make the Riot Squad more of a threat to Asuka and Charlotte, maybe get a tag title shot throughout the line. But throughout the match, you had Billie Kay going left and right on which team she wanted to root for. Like, am I rooting for Tamina and Natalya because I don't like the Riot Squad? Or am I rooting for the Riot Squad because they told me to get lost? Like, what? WWE, to credit, can be known for some of their best women's work on the roster. Sorry, not on the roster, in the wrestling business. But what is this? Like, Natalya, fair enough, but she can be used for good. She can be used for something good. Natalya does have that ability. She's got that legend status almost now, that she can help the younger talent. Give her a match against Bianca Belaire. Build Bianca Belaire up. And the Riot Squad, well, they're a great team, and they could have a great title run in them if you just give them a chance instead of pouring it on your Raw Women's Champion and Charlotte Flair. I'm sorry, but they're both good enough that they don't need these tag titles. After that match, we ended up having another women's match. This one, however, I do slightly feel is better. It was a tag match between Sasha Banks Bianca Bellaire against Bayley and Carmela to carry on from last week's Smackdown episode where they cost Sasha and Bellaire the tag titles. Obviously, Carmela is followed by her sommelier, or whatever his name is. The match starts off pretty basic, to be fair. Bellaire dominates early on before you get a tag in from, I believe it was Bayley. They start to work over Bellaire. They're focusing mainly on her arm. I'm not going to be honest. When this first started happening, I was like, okay, I get it. You want to work over Bellaire, make her look like she's resilient. Because I personally feel Bellaire should be the one to defeat Sasha for the title. That's just my opinion. I feel Bellaire should beat Sasha. Because they've been building her more and more and more. And I think there's no one left really that you can give her the title opportunity to. As I mentioned, Sonya Deville did return in this show. But apart from Sonya, there's only really Bellaire that can believably challenge, because she's already defeated Carmela twice. And she's already beaten Bayley twice. So who's left really on the roster to challenge for the title? I'm rambling a bit, sorry. Shortly after though, after getting worked over more and more and more, we get Sasha hot tagging. And Sasha runs right a bit. She does some great work. She takes out Bayley, puts Carmella into the corner. It seemed quite rough, standing on her throat while she's in the corner, as Sasha does. She then hits the over-the-top knees, and looks like she's about to have her beat with the bank statement before the sommelier drags Carmella out. Why is that not a DQ, WWE? You do this far too often currently, where you'll constantly have someone from the outside interfere in the match, dragging them out. I don't give a turd if they're on their side or not. It is a DQ. They have got involved in the match. But that's just one man's opinion. After this, the sommelier shows a bit of athleticism. I didn't expect it from him because I don't actually know who this guy is. He does a nice little backflip off the ring apron, where it looks like Sasha's about to roll up and pin Carmela. The sommelier gets up again and he just takes a slap from hell from Sasha Banks, which in the end eventually leads to a Carmela roll up. Oh no, sorry, it was the X Factor. Let's call it the X Factor. And leads to the 1, 2, 3. Carmela pins your women's champion again. I can see why they've done it. Like, this is WWE's tried, trusted thing to do, where your champion has been red hot, you want to pin them, so people are like, oh, well, she's pinned the champion, so she must be able to defeat the champion for the title. I don't think you should be doing that really this often, because that's twice now during a reign that Carmela has beat Sasha as champion. I don't feel this should be happening. And I'm not saying at the same time you've got Bianca Belaire that you do, because you're building Bianca Belaire. You don't want to harm that by having her take a loss. So you either don't make the match or you pin Bayley. Or if you wanted to do a different match, you could do a triple threat between the three, a number one contenders almost for a Rumble, and you have Bianca Belaire look like she's just beat Bayley. She's about to have her done, gone, dusted. And you have Carmella come in, roll her out the ring, and take the 1, 2, 3. We see that all the time. Why not just do it again? It works out better than what they've done by pinning the women's champion. So shortly after that, we get a little promo from Roman about Roman being so pissed that this match has been made. He orders Paul Heyman to go and find out who made this match. He's got that evil glare in his eye, like he's going to do some damage to whoever it is. It's shortly after this that we see the Sonya Deville coming down. I've already said all I need to say about this. I feel it's a complete waste of a return. Myself personally, I feel Sonya, if you're gonna do anything, comes down to the ring after the match and attacks all the women. She doesn't even have to attack all the women. Attacks Carmella. But he's like, you just beat the champion. I've just kicked your ass. So I should be the one to get the next opportunity. After this, we get what I personally would call the worst thing of this show. We had the Street Profits New Year's Smoke Tascular. I can't pronounce that word. This was awful. Like, this was genuinely awful. This made me want to stop watching awful. We had they made 2 predictions for the new year. The first was that Intercontinental Championship will be the number 1 seller. No, it won't. Second prediction was that Dolph Ziggler's name will change from the show off to the Heartbreak Ache. This was awful WWE comedy. And it's a shame as well because the Street Profits are so good in ring. And Montez Ford personally has tremendous potential. He could be a great champion someday. He doesn't have to be a WWE champion. He could be a great Intercontinental champion. Montez Ford has a lot of potential. But after all these jokes and jibes, eventually it leads to Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler coming out. And they just go to town. They destroy everything. You have Roode and Ziggler tossing Dawkins over the barricade. You have Roode and Ziggler basically Pillmanize Montez Ford's leg. And they just say to him, like, is this enough for you? Like, do you have our attention now? They get caught backstage by again, I think it's Charlie Caruso. I'm unsure, or Kayla Braxton, it's one of them. Backstage, and they basically go, we're sick of all the shit. We're sick of them making fun of us all the time. They want to make fun of us all the time. Well, eventually we're going to snap. So you deserved what you got, and we're going to come for those titles. Personally, I kind of agree with it. Like, they have. If you're going to keep taking jabs at someone, eventually they're going to snap. So they had every right to just go and do it. Well, not every right to just go and do it, but they had the right mindset. And I like that sometimes about heels where in their head, they're doing the right thing, and they had just kind of justified by what they're doing. So after this, we have a match between Bryan and Otis with Chad Gable, against Cesaro and Nakamura, former tag champions. This was all set up because Bryan was, this is slight WWE comedy done well, because this was all set up by Bryan's requested training to help him win the Royal Rumble, and by doing this, that Gable's teaching him that he's got to use the hips. He's got to use the hips whilst trying to lift up Otis. Okay. So eventually Cesaro and Nakamura come up to the ring, look up, and they're like, what the f is going on? Bryan explains to him why he's doing this, why he's getting help, to which they both just go, "What? The only thing funnier than what I'm looking at is the thought of you actually winning the Royal Rumble." And speaking of Royal Rumbles, can we just point out that Shinsuke Nakamura, 3 years ago now, won the 2018 Royal Rumble. My, how the mighty have fallen. Because Shinsuke Nakamura used to feel so special. Can we just remember that NXT Nakamura? Imagine him today. Imagine him against today's Roman Reigns. It's a shame on how much they have dropped the ball with Shinsuke Nakamura. And I feel they could do a lot better with Cesaro as well. I mean, we've all said it. We all know it. But yeah, it's happened. And with that being said, let's get into the match. And the match starts off with Bryan and Cesaro doing some nice mat wrestling. It's a shame that we only got a little bit of this, because eventually Cesaro does tag in Shinsuke Nakamura. And again, it was some nice mat wrestling. But it's not the same. You want to see a full match between Cesaro and Daniel Bryan. Myself personally, I think they could have a stormer of a match. We saw a little bit of it before WrestleMania, but they could have even better. You give them time on like a pay-per-view, just low card, they could have myself personally, I feel they could have a show stealer. Like they are both that good in the ring. And so the thing about this match is, it's basically to set up Bryan. Well, let's be honest, it's to make Bryan shine. It goes well. Nakamura's trying to work over his arm. They're trying stuff. It's a standard WWE tag match. Bryan's trying his hardest, bless him. Bryan goes for a dive outside, and Cesaro just catches him. He's so strong. He's so good. He just throws him up, tries to hit him with the uppercut. It's a bit sloppy, but he lands it anyway. It's a good show of strength. I couldn't do it, so he does well. And WWE then cuts off as Otis is trying to take out Nakamura, I think it is. Again, I say I think because WWE cuts off literally as he comes onto the screen. Great work. Shortly after then, we obviously come back from commercial, and Cesaro is once again doing Daniel Bryan. And this is going on for a bit long. Eventually we get the hot tag from Otis. He's throwing everyone about, throws over Cesaro, and sets him up for the Caterpillar. He goes for the Caterpillar, and it's it. Gable's telling him to do all this stuff on the ring. He gets the 1, 2, saved by Nakamura. He gets rid of Nakamura and goes for the Vader Bomb to miss completely. I will say I liked one tribute from little Otis there. He hits the discus clothesline of Brody's. Nice little touch. Later on in the match, we end up having, it was Daniel against Shinsuke eventually back in the match, and Daniel looks like he's gonna win it with the running knee, only for Nakamura to duck out of the way and hits Cesaro with the running knee. It's about here I start thinking, Joe, what, this match feels like it could get going. But just as I'm starting to feel that, WWE then has Nakamura tap out to the label lock. Okay? We then, after the match, we have a little bit of comedy where they're all literally just dry humping the air, basically. And it's alright, it's not too bad. that was that match. And then we eventually get to the main event. Just before the main event, you have Paul Heyman coming up to Roman going, it was Adam Pearce. He was the one who made the match. After Roman hears this, he just goes, why? Everything I do for this company, they don't understand what I do for them. And he tries to motivate Jay to go out and win this match, to destroy Kevin Owens, win it at all costs. We then get to the match, and Kevin Owens makes his way to the ring. I thought that Jay was going to attack him from behind here because it is such a WWE thing to do. Kevin Owens gets to the ring. He looks like he's pissed, and to be fair, you can't disagree with him. Jay comes out, and Jay seems almost skeptical to get in the ring, but eventually he does. And as soon as that bell rings, it's almost like a one-sided hockey fight. Kevin is just beating down on Jey Uso. Jay eventually gets a couple of punches in, but Kevin once again just takes him down. Just blow after blow after blow. He throws him outside ringside, takes him down there, hits him with a senton, and it just looks like this is just going to be ugly. Like, fully just going to be ugly. He takes him back inside. Again, another senton. Goes for a stunner. Jay throws him out of the stunner. He comes back, super kick. Goes back into the ring. Goes out of the ring due to the super kick. Jay then goes to run and jump off the steps and is met with a super kick of his own from Kevin Owens, who then launches him over the table. To which it then cuts to commercial. Now, after this start, bearing in mind, I'm not great at explaining this, but this start was red hot. Like, it made you think, this could be a great main event. We come back from commercial and Jey Uso's about to hit the Uso splash and misses, only for a stunner to be hit immediately for the 1, 2, 3. And it makes you think, why? Why so quick? So you're obviously immediately like, okay, so there's got to be an angle, surely. And you would be right. Kevin Owens gets out some handcuffs and ties Jey Uso up to the ring ropes and demands that Roman comes out. He says, if you don't come out, any of this is on you. Roman no-shows. So Kevin just starts beating upon Jey Uso, just laying in the punches, hitting the leg that he had targeted for quite a lot of the early beatdown in the match. And he keeps shouting, Roman, Roman, where are you, Roman? Goes to Corey Graves, tells him anything that happens is on Roman. Demands Roman makes his way out, and there is no sign of him. So he continues to lay into him a bit more, till eventually he takes out his knee pad. He's got a key behind his knee pad. Eventually unlocks Jay and ties his arms together instead, and he just goes, well, if you're not going to come to him, I'm going to bring him to you, and I'm going to kick the crap out of you, basically. He starts taking him over. Jay has a little fight back, but eventually Kevin just deals with it quite simply. Takes him over to the tables that are just conveniently set up. Puts him on him and starts to climb, actually, the Thunderdome. This is the first time we've ever seen those LED screens actually used or properly referenced since they've been brought in, I feel. But as he climbs up to go and what I assume would be a splash onto the tables, Roman just pops up out of nowhere, attacks Kevin, starts ramming his faces into the LED lights. You have Jay has climbed up at the same time. They're both wailing onto him with chairs, telling him that he doesn't belong here. He should never try to challenge the Tribal Chief. At one point you have Jey Uso, because he's handcuffed, using the cuffs to try and choke out Kevin. He just keeps getting thrown into the LED boards more and more and more. Roman eventually decides, enough's enough, you're not going to give up at any point, are you? And just throws him off the side into the tables. Myself personally, I feel it was a great end segment for a pretty lackluster show. Like, if I was to rate this out of 5, myself personally, I'd give this either a very low 3 out of 5 or a high 2 out of 5. It's not breaking the standards of what lately SmackDown has shown it can do. It was a pretty poor show. The only thing that saved any of this from being a definite 2 out of 5 was the long show story of the Kevin J. Roman thing that has saved SmackDown for a few weeks now. I feel that this could be told better, but after all, Bruce Pritchard thinks that we don't like new things, so we never know where this could go. I hope it gets better because there's a lot of talent on SmackDown, and I hope they can just implore themselves to get better and slowly, because the booking on some of this show was questionable. But I am Josh from BWR. Thank you for watching. If you disagree with anything I've said, please comment down below. If you have any advice, please again comment down below. And I'll see you all on the next one, hopefully.